What is going on, everyone? Today we are going to be talking about probate. What is probate? Why should you even consider it? If you've been thinking about getting into the listing game, maybe you're tired of working with buyers, or maybe you're just trying to explore what other options there are out there when it comes to working with sellers and getting listings. Well, definitely take out your pen and your paper because I have an amazing guest today that has a lot of experience when it comes to probate. So with that being said, I want to bring on my friend, Michele Bellisari. Welcome, Michele.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
So for everyone that's watching, go ahead and share with us a little bit about yourself so that they can get to know you.
Okay. I'm Michele Bellisari. I'm a real estate agent in Boca Raton, Florida. Just a little north of where Loida is. And I've been in real estate for a long time. Been doing this for about 20 years. My previous career is pharmaceutical sales and consumer health products. I love a niche. And back in 2012, post 2008 housing crash, I had to make some hard decisions, either stay in real estate or figure out a better way to manage the real estate business that I was in. And thus, I looked at doing probate real estate. And that's something I've been doing ever since. And it's led to other listing niches. I'm huge on the listing side as far as I think every agent should have a listing pillar, Loida. I think it's so important, especially no more important than now in the kind of atmosphere that we're in with all of the different scenarios going on with NAR and whatnot. So, yeah, I just absolutely love helping people turn a corner. There's never closure. Probate is obviously when someone has passed away and someone has inherited property and perhaps there was not an estate plan or there wasn't a will. It's not clear cut necessarily. And so what ends up happening is there's real estate that needs to be sold. So that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to get started, obviously, unlocking the potential of probate real estate because you are very well versed in probate. You have a lot of experience. There's probably agents that are watching this that have heard of probate. Maybe they have been making calls and they have, come across a seller that's like, hey, this property is
Yeah.
under probate. So first of all, what would be the first step if, let's say, I come across someone that, it's a probate type of property?
Yeah. So a lot of times what happens is when somebody passes away, um, it takes a little while for things to be put in order. The death certificate needs to be submitted. Typically, if it is a probate situation, the family gets, or the personal representative, what we call here in Florida, other states they call executor, um, they have to, hire a probate attorney to help them navigate through the process of what they're going to do next, how they're going to sell, who's allowed to sell the property. In the vast world of real estate, this particular niche, and the reason I like it is because it doesn't have quite as much competition as say other niches. I think part of that may come because it can be perceived as being a little more difficult, may take a little longer, may need to have a little more life experience and have an understanding of, okay, what happens when someone dies and there's property and possessions left behind. So it's not for everyone, but for those that have a compassionate heart and or have perhaps experienced them themselves, like I did at a younger age, 28 and 33, when my parents passed away, it can be a very lucrative pillar to your business.
So when it comes to probate, I know you mentioned, it might take longer than your typical transaction. What type of timeframes are we looking at?
Really depends. They usually say anywhere from like 6 to 9 months, but it depends on where you are when you get in touch with the person who is selling the property. So you may get at the very beginning where a lot of things haven't been done yet, or you could be towards the middle and then it could technically be like any other closing you have, maybe a little longer, like 90 days. I've certainly, um, if it's not overly complicated, I've certainly done faster closings. Um, some can take longer. Depends on if there's more than one personal representative. Maybe they're not getting along. Maybe they don't see eye to eye. Maybe they don't see eye to eye on what something needs to be priced at. There's a lot of dynamics that can happen. Best case scenario, it's one personal representative versus two. But hopefully, if there's two, they get along and they're on the same page. But I've definitely been on both sides of that coin, and that is, it's not a lot of fun because you've got to, like, you know, go back and forth and try and reason with people. But it can take a little longer. So just be prepared. But sometimes regular real estate takes a little longer too.
Yeah.
It's a negotiation. Sometimes sellers are like, hey, I need to stay in the house for 90 days, not 45, not 30, or things get delayed, or contracts fall through and you're starting over.
Mhm.
So what do you say? Tomato, tomato, potato, potato?
It kind of reminds me of the properties where it's under a trust and there's like 8 siblings and some want to sell, some don't.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we can't do
Everybody has to
anything.
sign.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, my favorite probate, I think there was 7 siblings. They were older siblings. Not everybody's computer savvy. So that's a
Mm.
whole other thing. It's like, oh, then you got to send someone out there to get the signatures and things like that. So depending on what you're dealing with, and that kind of falls also into if you're working with seniors, which happened to me. So working with probate led to working with seniors. Some of my seniors just are not computer savvy. The most recent closing I had, not probate, but seniors, had to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Wow.
So I was doing a little bit of driving there, but it was to Pompano, easy breezy.
Yes. So I know that you have mentioned there's different opportunities, so different type of probate properties. So what exactly does that mean?
So what's really kind of interesting about probate is you just don't know what kind of real estate people are buying. When I think of probate, traditionally it's residential real estate. When you see celebrity probate estate cases, typically it's residential. It can also be high end residential. So it's not necessarily like, one price point. I've definitely done some high end probate sales in my career. But I like to say, like, you can get some really good examples of what happens in probate with celebrities. And I say that because they're surrounded by attorneys. And I'm always surprised when it turns out that, oh, by the way, so and so celebrity didn't have a really good estate plan. Michael Jackson's estate plan was, clearly not good. Aretha Franklin, they just found a napkin under a cushion, and actually, it actually solidified that she was leaving what she was leaving to her family. Um, Amy Winehouse, James Gandolfini. There's just all these different scenarios that seem to happen. The most recent one, I'm kind of waiting to see what happens with Matthew Perry from Friends. If anybody's a Friends fan, and I love Friends, and I was so sad to see that happen. He had no kids, and he also wasn't married.
Wow.
So he seemed like the kind of guy that was pretty buttoned up. So I
Mhm.
haven't seen anything that's a probate situation. So chances are he had a lot of things in a trust. That's typically what attorneys say. And I always have to premise by saying I am not an attorney. I'm a real estate agent that sells probate, but I'm fascinated by the process. And I'm always surprised when I see high profile celebrities that are typically surrounded by, like, phone call away or text away from attorneys, and they don't have the estate plan set up. The Anne Heche case is very interesting too, because there was, I think, an ex boyfriend or something like that that went after wanting to become the executor of the estate, and this is out in California. So I don't know California probate law, but it ended up that her oldest son ended up being appointed. So who, that, and that's sad. Like, I can't imagine being that young Like
Yeah.
I was 28 when my dad died, right? So I think my mom maybe have handled it or something like that. I can't even remember. But to be that young and have to deal with all this a lot. So, the different opportunities could be residential, could be commercial, could be land.
Mhm.
There's so many different types of properties that are out there. And then the other side of this is too, we as realtors, we can list the property, but maybe you're an investor or you want to start investing, certainly an opportunity to invest. Of course, use all the appropriate disclosures, right? Disclose, disclose, disclose. Um, if you like working with investors, you could be that realtor that finds these properties and brings them to your investor group. So lots of different opportunities with probate.
Yes. And for everyone that's watching, I know we have quite a few right now watching. Any questions that you guys have, go ahead and drop them in the comments. That way we can make sure to answer them at the end. Now, with these different opportunities and different type of probate properties, so let's say I come across a piece, and or maybe like a homeowner or some relative says, "Hey, this property, the owner died. We need to get an attorney." What is like the first step, or how do you find a probate attorney?
One of the things that I've done, and I've been doing this since about 2012, is I got to know attorneys through my own network. And then I networked myself. And networking is a huge piece of our business, right, Loida? No matter if it's agent to agent networking, it's your sphere of influence, or you're building your own list, whatever it is. And that's why I always say, like, what is your hobby? Your hobby is going to also lead you to great opportunities, right? So I'm picking up a new hobby, pickleball. I'll tell you guys a little bit about that later. Um, but one of the best things you can do is go look at your local bar association and start going where they go. Are they doing a happy hour? Do they have a monthly lunch? And sometimes they have a niche group, which is the Women's Bar Association. So, for example, I'm in Palm Beach County, they're the South Palm Beach County Bar Association, but they also have one for the women attorneys. So you can get two typically a few times a year. They take summers off, I think. I don't know if they do anything in December. That's a good place that you can meet people. You can certainly buy lists of properties. I see a question in there.
Mhm.
Um, what I do, because I also teach this, I have a course, is I teach agents how they can actually source for free, how to find properties and how to leverage a virtual assistant to do that research for you. The lists are great, but they can be very expensive, like any lists can. Whether it's foreclosure, pre-foreclosure, whatever. A lot of times that can get pretty pricey. And let's just say, because I'm a realist, you'll buy stuff and not use it. So,
I know you
right?
spend
I mean,
money,
I've
they're
never
like,
I've
throw it
never
away.
seen
Yes. So it
never.
sounds like even going to these networking events, it's all about also building relationships with these people. So
Yes.
whenever you do meet them, you almost kind of like have them in your back pocket, right?
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, and this is, you and I've talked about ChatGPT, which is fantastic for so many other reasons. But one of the things that I started using it for was creating a prompt to create uh, conversations for when I'm at networking events, so that I don't
Oh,
fall into the old talking about myself, because we all do that. We all do that. Like, hey, I'm a realtor with so and so, and yeah, I've been in town for like blah blah blah, and you're like blah 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 blah. Instead of, what are three questions, like your prompt for AI? What are three questions you could present to an attorney that you've just met at a networking event?
mhm,
Right. So that way it gets you in the habit of starting to ask them questions. And I think a great question too, when you're meeting probate attorneys and estate attorneys, or even financial planners, like, what made you choose that particular
mhm,
practice? Because let's face it, like, we could be different types of realtor hats. Well, attorneys, I mean, you've got accident attorneys, you've got um, elder law attorneys, which are great attorneys because they cross pollinate, right? You've got all types of attorneys out there. So I'm always interested in finding out why someone chose probate and estate law. It's very interesting, versus criminal law, for example, right? Or trademark law. So I think it's important to make sure that if you're networking with these folks, that you're asking them questions about themselves, finding out about them, where are they hanging out, what's the next event they're going to be at, are they involved in any nonprofits that might be of interest to you, that you could
Mhm.
kind of like say, hey, listen, maybe we can co-sponsor something together. So there's ways for you to start getting into the network, but ultimately you have to know how to work with these sellers, because they're not, usually they're in a middle of grieving a loss of a loved one or a friend. um, they're not always thinking as straight, because that's what grief does. It kind of sucks your brain power away from you. And you have to guide them and let them know that, listen, when I need things, I need things, but I'm going to tell you when I need things. And if you need to cry on my shoulder one day, I'm okay with that, because people are dealing with disease and they're dealing with the long goodbye. Like, so many people are dealing with their family loved ones with Alzheimer's, right? And they've been dealing with it for a long time. They're tired. Grief makes you tired. It also makes it hard to communicate. As much as I'm a chatty Cathy, when my mom died in 1997, I remember we were at the Boca Hotel for something. My friend invited us, and I remember her saying this to me. She goes, "What is wrong with you? You're not saying anything." And I didn't have it in me. So just understanding that they're looking to you to guide them, but also building those relationships with attorneys and not being intimidated by an attorney, by not asking a question. If like they're saying, hey, I'm not hearing from my attorney's office, I don't know, like what's going on, a nudge, a very respectful, hey, what's going on. One of the things that I do teach is how to look at the public records, so you can kind of follow what's going on. I'll give you a good example, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing a probate property in North Miami Beach about a year ago, 2022. And it was a referral from someone at our brokerage. And as I was asking her questions, she was out in Texas, lovely girl. I was asking her questions and I'm like, is this a probate property? She goes, yeah. I said, hold on. I was like, please hold. And I'm like, and I looked at it, I said, wow, this has been in probate a long time. Let me see what's going on here. What? And then I went, what is going on here? And I'm looking at it, I'm like, huh. So I said, listen, I'd love to help you. This is my specialty area. I'm actually really glad that you got me and not someone else, because I don't know if someone else would have been able to navigate it, who had not done quite a few of these. So when I finally reached out to the attorney after speaking to the seller, it was a very complicated probate. This gentleman had passed away. There was a kind of a mystery property that nobody knew about. There was um, other siblings, and it did need a court approval. A lot of times it doesn't need a court approval, which means that they just sign off on the documentation, who's going to be personal representative, etc. And it's one of the few times that the contract had to be approved by the court, because there was a lot of moving parts. So I had a laundry list of questions for the seller's attorney, so that we were on the same page. And then I said to the seller, I think you should choose the title company, offer to pay for the owner's title policy, so you have control of the title. So we know
Mhm.
the player here, because it was in Miami-Dade. Miami-Dade, the buyer chooses, right? But in this case, I made the suggestion that, I think you might need to just have your own representation. Let's see if we can use uh, the this particular attorney or somebody you choose, and let's do it that way. And it worked out really well. And we did get it closed, and thankfully, and we got it closed right before the market shifted. Thank God. And the other thing is, don't ever be afraid to suggest a seller, especially in a probate situation, get their own appraisal on the property. Because, especially if it's going to be court approved, I am not an appraiser. You're not an appraiser. We can do CMAs, but we're not appraisers. And because, especially because of that, I said, I think you should have an appraisal so that if the contract is questioned, you can present the appraisal. 500, $600, it's well worth it. Do you need it all the time? No, but it's these little nuances that make you a go-to for the attorneys, because they start to trust
Mhm.
you that you're doing what's in the best interest for the seller. And then also coordinating those moving parts. How do they get the furniture out? How do they have the clean out? Now, we as realtors typically do that, but there's a lot of realtors that don't know how to do that. They don't have the resources. They can't just pick up the phone and say, hey, Todd, this is what's going on. How quickly can you get over and get this kind of handled? You know, um, most attorneys don't want to have to deal with that. They don't want to charge their clients for that either. Because I think most attorneys are like 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15. They don't want to do that. Right. So you're wearing a few different hats. But I have to tell you, it's been the most satisfying piece of my career. First time home buyers was my first niche. And then when I segued out of it because of the market and everything and got into working with probate and then seniors, it has truly been an honor to be able to help families go through um, this with them and get things, at least the chapter closed on certain things. And in some cases, um, I've had the personal representatives, which is what we call them here in Florida, want to take a last walk through the house and say goodbye.
Wow.
And you have to be prepared that you're going to get some requests like that. I had a situation where there were all these photo albums that nobody knew about, and I was shipping them, but I thought, you know what? And this was probably 6, 7 years ago, and I took pictures and I sent the pictures before, I shipped it, so she could see, and she was shocked. She's like, I had no idea that was even there. So
Wow.
it's a little extra things, right? That we can do as stewards of our businesses and also taking care of people who are really, you know, in grief mode.
Mhm. Wow. Thank you for sharing all of that. Which kind of brings me to a question as you're talking about all of this. What vendors should you also have backups? Obviously, like a cleaning crew or maybe like trash removal. Like,
I have a few things. So I've got, I always say, you got to have a guy, right? Everybody has a guy. I've got to make, we all do, guy or gal. It's just like, who's got a guy? I have a great guy who he knows how to clean out a house. I did one recently. It was a senior downsizing, World War II veteran, by the way. It's the third one in my career I work with. That in itself is just like such an honor. And I'm like, okay, we got to get all of this out, like gone. And I want to say it was a 40-foot trailer, but they'd been in the house for 38 years.
mhm.
So we figured out what they were taking, what they weren't taking. Family came down to help them. And then I don't know if you saw the video. And guys, this is what we do. And I did a whole thing. It took Andy, my husband. I said, dude, I need your help. He's like, why? I said, I need you to sweep the garage. I said, here I am. I'm getting my own house clean like the next week. And I'm down there with my vacuum, my bucket. I looked like freaking Carol Burnett, like, doing my cleaning. And just because I wanted, like, it was okay, but I just want to make sure, like, it looked like the carpets have been vacuumed and I had
Yeah.
like Windex and just like I needed an hour. And Andy also came down because there's a lot of old cleaning stuff, Windex and bleach bottles. And the guy couldn't take that. He's like, I can't take that. I'm like, don't worry about it. Andy, go, go, you do this and deal with it with the people that you work with. So we were cleaning, but yeah, typically I've got a cleaning crew. I've got a clean out person. Um, handyman.
Mm.
I did have Andy help me that day with one little thing because he's a plumber and he's also a boat captain, so he's very handy, handy Andy. Um, what else do I have? I'm thinking those are the big ones, because that's things that at the last minute need to be handled, is like get all the stuff out of the house, you
Yeah.
know. So that's what yeah. And so I see another question here about I would not pop by anybody's house. I have a few probates, but not sure how to speak to them on the phone, or would Michelle suggest pop by? I would not pop by. I think you could come up with a good script through ChatGPT that's warm, but ultimately, you could also send them a handwritten note. You could maybe send a postcard. You certainly can make a phone call, but you've got to be prepared to the whole conversation. Now, Loida is good on the phone with that, so you have to be prepared. Now, are there people that do make the phone calls? Absolutely. I'm not one of them because I wouldn't want somebody calling me like after my mom died, for example. So I think it's a personal thing, but I'm not telling you not to do it because people are very successful with different formats. So whatever you're comfortable with, handwritten note goes a long way. But they're getting slammed with postcards from investors. So remember that. Come from a place of how can I help you? What can I do for you? I'm a resource. So you could come up with your own guide, you know, 10 things to know about probate, create a landing page and, put it out there like that. There's a lot of different things you can do. Like on my website, I have a probate page and I have a seniors page, you know. So if people want anything, they can, connect with me there, or they can get one of the freebies I have that I've put together. So
Yeah. Another question is regarding the vendors. Do you pay them or who pays them?
the seller pays them.
Okay.
Yeah, the seller pays them. Now, sometimes the sellers aren't here. Um, and I think I'm not wrong in saying I would say, listen, I can pay them, but you need to Venmo me, like handle it. Or you could and just pay me at closing. But it depends on how much it is. So,
Yeah.
like, I did some shipping recently for a senior downsizing. It was $250 to ship these few items. I don't want to front that money. That's just not me. So I did say, hey, could you just Venmo me and I'll pay it right here at UPS? So, and that's the other thing. Sometimes you do need to ship items. I never have a problem doing that. As long as it fits in my car and I'm not going to like break my back or something, I'm okay doing that.
So then will you get quotes and tell the seller? And
I usually let the seller get their own quotes. Again, I can get quotes and forward, like, say, 3 quotes, but I always want to say, please verify, please have a conversation with them because ultimately I'm not the seller. We are the resource to the resource.
Mhm, absolutely. Great questions. You guys can keep them coming. I want to
Yeah, these
quickly
are
talk
really good
about
questions.
getting your time back and actually focusing on a niche because I know that you always talk about that. So for everyone that's watching right now that's maybe like, oh well, I'm trying to figure out what I should focus on. What can you share to kind of help that out?
Yeah. So it's Niche Wednesday. That's what I'm calling it, Niche Wednesday. Here's the thing about a niche. This is what you all are going to be able to relate to. And in the comments, I want you to put a 1 if you either bought one or you watched a video on it or you saw something on social media. Stanley Cup. Who bought a Stanley Cup? Who saw the whole thing going on with the Stanley Cup? Come on, fess up. I know you were watching it. I know some of you were
Oh,
shoving your way
I
into
saw that. I'm like, what
Persian.
is that all about?
So look, see, it's happening.
Yep.
Did you get one? Yes or no? I'm curious. I'm curious. So I started to pick. See. So the thing with Stanley Cup, this is a great example of a niche and also pivoting. So sometimes we get stuck in our business career, whatever we're doing. Loida does this very, very well on how she motivates and encourages and teaches how to do the expireds, do the cold calls, and do that piece, right? There's something for everyone. That's what my mom used to say. That's why there's like, chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry ice cream. Everybody doesn't like the same thing, but there's something for everyone. Okay. So the thing with having a niche, and this is what I found out, especially with a listing niche, is that you do control your time better on the listing side, in my opinion. Um, and if you find niches that are with motivated sellers, like we've been talking about, even better. One of the things I picked up on with the Stanley Cup piece, and I did a video on it a few weeks before, is that look, they are a long term brand. I think they're like 1913, typically for men, hot liquids, and green, right? Like people have stories of growing up and seeing their grandfather with it, or their uncle, or their dad, or whatever. And they made this major pivot. And I made some notes about it earlier today because I was on something else. And the bottom line is they ended up having a huge, huge growth between 2019 and 2023. CNBC reported a staggering $670 million increase in revenue for these bottles from 2019 to
Wow.
2023. And one of the things they did is they created really a new niche within they were already a niche brand, right? But they created a niche through influencers and saying, hey, everybody needs to drink more water, right? So I just have a water bottle here, Dasani, which I think is owned by Coke, if I
Hmm.
remember. Um, Again, that's the water whole thing. Who would have thought that years ago? Bottled water, niche, right? When you guys start looking at things in real estate, also start looking at products around you and how it can relate back to you in real estate. What is the lesson you can take from it? So with Stanley, they went, oh, women, they like drinking water, they like drinking cold water, they're working out. Let's tap into influencers. Oh, and let's create a whole bunch of colors, a whole bunch of colors, and brilliant, brilliant marketing. Um, they literally pivoted into a female driven market. So when you guys are thinking about a real estate niche, no matter what it is, I've got, if you go to at the Michelle B and you go to my link tree, just tap on that. I've got like a bunch of freebies. There's one there that has 50 real estate niches, 25 listing, 25 buyer side. Um, you'll find lots of freebie stuff that'll start like getting your minds like thinking, oh, that's interesting. How can I take, for example, my hobby and turn that into some sort of niche? Or what can I take away from my hobby? Right. So I'll give you an example of what I decided to do for the new year. I'm 61. I need to move more. I hate working out. Like, I hate working out. I can walk. I really hate that. Probably because I worked at the mall and then I was a sales rep for 15 years. Like, I could care less if I ever took a walk, but I need to move more. I like to dance. But I started looking at pickleball. And my girlfriend came over. She drops off something every year at Christmas. And I said, you play pickleball. Do you think I can play pickleball? She goes, of course you can play pickleball. I go, look, I've been stretching and I can squat down again because we're always sitting, guys. You
Yeah.
got to get up every like 30, 40 minutes. So, so I started doing a deep dive in pickleball. What does pickleball mean? What is the game? How's it working? How's it relevant in real estate? Oh yeah, everybody's playing freaking pickleball. It's got fashion. It's sports. It's competitive. Doesn't have to be competitive. You can join a group. You can meet new people. Oh, they have pickleball groups in private communities. Like I'm thinking pickleball's on my brain. So
Yeah.
now I'm like, how can I take this niche, this sport niche, because that's what it is, right? And layer it into my own world, but then how can I also layer it over to real estate? So I hopped right on the bandwagon, figured out, oh, wow, this week there's a whole tournament here in Boca. I'm taking my first pickleball lesson on Sunday. I'm dragging my daughter, Allie, with me. I said, you're coming with me and you're paying for your own lesson. She goes, fine. Um, so we're going to learn pickleball and I'm going to start getting more involved with it. And on Friday, I'm doing a networking event with the director of the tournament here in Boca. I made the decision right around Christmas time. That's how quickly you guys can turn around your business and jump into a niche. When I decided to do probate, I came home from a Mike Ferry conference after, like, he was all about listings. I was in a kind of difficult situation back then, and I had three different girlfriends, didn't know each other, all say to me, "You probably need to go list. Don't worry about the buyers right now. You're burnt out. You're tired. The economy isn't like friendly towards buyers right now, and you need money." And I said, "Yeah." And within a week, I had my game plan. Loida, you know that you moved across country.
Yeah.
When you are determined, you don't need 6 months to turn on a dime. And when you really need to change things, you change it. And that's what I did with probate. It 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 literally kept me in real estate. But my point again is you can choose whatever niche that you want as long as it has motivated sellers. That's number one. If they're not motivated, then it's not to me like the number one niche I would choose. But you've got three: divorce, downsizing, and probate. Those are three really good ones. If you're going to work with buyers right now, I think the best buyer niche is relocation buyers. Um, I don't know how many people watching today are in Florida, especially South Florida. We are always in play, baby. Always in play. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever let anybody give you crap about Florida, because I'm telling you right now, no state income tax state. Tech companies moving here. We've got the Go Bright line now from Orlando to Miami. It's probably going to go to Tampa. Um, we have businesses moving in here like crazy. Start following your cities and their economic, um, like we have Boca Economic Development. They have their own Instagram. I shared something today about the commercial space and how much commercial space is being traded right now. Like, be in the know, understand what you can do, and know that you need to list to last, and there are riches in the niches.
I love it. Someone said, I don't know who it was, but you said what you said, Michele. Yep.
It's probably somebody
Listen
what
to that.
probably somebody I know.
Yes. Any other questions? Go ahead and put them now because we are going to start wrapping up. You guys have asked a lot of great questions. I want to see if there's
Yeah,
anything
really
that we
good. Like really, really good. Go to my link tree. Like I said, at the
didn't.
Michelle B is
Yes.
my Instagram. I just dropped something today using a third party platform, which I'm really happy. And little nugget for those of you that do have lead magnets for buyers and sellers. ManyChat is just fabulous. Have you got ManyChat yet, Loida?
I don't, but I have
Oh,
heard of it. Is it free or is it paid?
it's paid and it's well worth it.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
that's what I
so
figured. Okay.
go to your Apple, your app store or whatever it
Yeah.
is on your phone, and get rid of stuff you're not using. It's like $15 a month.
Yeah.
It's a no brainer. Um, but I'll tell you what, it's great for buyers and sellers too, because it automates. And many of you have probably like had somebody say, drop the word joy in the
Oh,
comments, and then you
mhm.
get something in the DM. That's ManyChat.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. So how can you can find info on my training at the Michelle B, or the probate real estate bootcamp.com. But go to at the Michelle B on Instagram, follow me there. Go look at some of my last reels and stuff. And I try to make them informative, not fluffy. I'm pretty cut and dry. I think you guys can
Yeah.
do that.
No, that's
Like, I got
awesome.
to start working out. I got to move. I'm going to play pickleball. Who
I
knows?
love
But all I
that.
know is it's going to be great content, because I
Yeah.
also have my own personal brand behind me, So Boca,
Mhm.
and I'm going to document that journey on there. I'm dropping a blog post today and a YouTube long form video that I actually paid to get edited, because I interviewed the director of the tournament on Saturday. And I'm like, I need Zhuzha, not Loida. You're so good at YouTube. I am like, but I'm like, I'm just gonna, you know,
Yeah.
but so it's going to hit a few things for me, So there you
Yeah.
go.
I love how you took pickleball and now there it's like this whole thing around it with the purpose of it
Yeah,
potentially bringing you business.
I'm excited because years ago when I worked for Warner Lambert, which was bought out by Pfizer, we used to do the Chris Everett Pro Celebrity tennis tournament with Lubriderm Lotion. We sponsored it many different years. We got different sponsors involved. At the time, it was Ecker Drugs. Now it's CVS, Publix, Winn Dixie, whatever. We'd go to the tournament. So much fun. And I'm looking at pickleball. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And obviously, South Florida is great for it. Fort Lauderdale is going to be building the largest indoor pickleball facility in the world. I saw that come out about a week and a half ago. And I'm like, you know what? Even if I play once a week,
Yeah.
it's not as crazy as tennis. I can't do tennis. I just can't. It's I don't know. I need to lose some weight first, probably. Then maybe I can.
I've
But
played
you know what?
tennis, the
Tennis
ball
has
will
never
go
been
over
my
the fence.
jam. No, tennis is great. I like watching tennis. Actually,
Yeah.
I like going to the VIP tent at tennis tournaments. That's what I like.
Get some networking and some other things in there.
There you go. So if you have any questions, you can DM me on Instagram. Thank you for having me today.
Yes. And for everyone that's watching or that's going to watch the replay, one thing that I will say before we wrap this up, especially if you're an agent out here in South Florida, is that if you ever do come across a probate potential listing or anything and you have no idea what to do, reach out to Michelle. Because I'd rather, you get connected with someone that knows exactly what to do. And then maybe even you, Michelle, can kind of show them or walk them through or
Yeah,
something, but at least
absolutely.
the client is getting handled.
Absolutely. Don't do it alone on your
Yeah.
first few, you know. I think that's most important, you know. I was fortunate that I also at the time, the company I was with, we had a law firm and I could bounce ideas off of the law firm. But at the same time, I'd gone through it a couple times with my parents, so I had a pretty good idea of what I want to do. I'd also been on the buyer side, which also was one of the reasons that I got into probate was I was on the buyer side with two different clients, and the listing agents weren't. Um, they just didn't understand what they had. And come to find out, one of them had a big delay in closing because one of the heirs died in a different county across the state. Now, this is the one thing I'm going to say the value of Facebook is huge because a friend of mine from the University of Florida was friends with that attorney. And I asked for an introduction and I called the attorney and I told her what was going on. And I'll never forget that. She goes, I didn't even know that house was listed. Well, I didn't know enough
Wow.
either. So
Mhm.
bad on me for not understanding that I wrote a contract on something that wasn't even
Yeah.
saleable, right? So these are the little things. These are the little things, you know.
Yes.
So
Yes.
live and learn.
One last thing that just came in, the scripts. Can you just remind us where you can go?
I actually don't have any probate scripts. What I do is I have letters that I put together in my course that you can use as guidelines to send to a personal representative or reach out to an attorney. What I'm was saying with that is you could go on ChatGPT easily and kind of come up with your own little script if you want to. I am looking at adding some phone scripts in my course. The thing of it is that I typically am not doing that. And whenever I teach something, it's what I'm actually doing, not something I haven't skilled at.
Mhm.
Like I don't want to fake it till I make it on that. I'm pretty good on the phone. I did phone sales all through college, which is probably why I don't make the phone calls now because I just know.
You did enough.
Um, oh my God. Well, I worked two or three jobs at any given time. But yeah, so at that, what I would say is if you want to come up with a script of sorts, you could probably put something into the chat GPT and come up with something. Just
Awesome.
remember, you're not an attorney. We're not
Yes.
attorneys.
There you go.
I stayed at
Awesome.
Holiday Inn last night, but I'm not an attorney.
Well, this has been great, Michelle. Thank you so much once again for answering all these questions, sharing your
Sure.
knowledge when it comes to probate. Everyone, make sure to go to Michelle's Instagram, DM her, look at her links. If you have any questions regarding her probate boot camp, just DM her, message her, and she'll reach out. So thank you once again, Michelle, and thank you everyone for
Oh,
watching.
thank you, Loida. Thank you all, and have a wonderful, wonderful first quarter. And go out there and be authentically you.
Yes. All right. Bye.